Hi all, welcome and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to share a horrific story with you out of Claremont County in Ohio that, I'm not going to lie to you, shook me to my core. Because not only is the story horrific, but I truly believe that the suspect involved is as close as one can get to encountering an actual demon. That is just my opinion, of course, but I'm not saying it lightly. I can't possibly show you what I'm about to show you without telling it like I see it. You may not see it, which is great, but for me, it's overwhelmingly evident and completely chilling. Again, it's my opinion, but after you hear this story, don't be surprised if you agree. On June 15th of 2023, around 4:30 p.m., police in Claremont County, Ohio, received a 911 call from a woman screaming that her babies had been shot. Then a second 911 call came in from a woman who said a young girl was running down the road screaming for help, saying her father was killing everyone. The news has been reporting that girl running down the road escaped the horror happening at her home on Laurel Lindale Road after she witnessed her stepfather shoot her younger brothers with a rifle and her mother through the hand as she tried to grab the gun to save the lives of her children. When police arrived on scene, they found 32-year-old Chad Doerman sitting calmly on his front porch with his rifle by his side as he looked out onto his lawn where his three young sons, ages 3, 4, and 7, lay dying, and while his wife was screaming for help. Police body cam footage shows officers arriving to the scene, screaming commands to him from the road as he sits calmly and unaffected, ignoring them and watching his babies die. He ignores their commands as they approach him. Then they throw him to the ground to cuff him, and he calmly lays there, listening to his wife screaming as if he's satisfied with what he's done. As one officer runs to help the children, another asks Doerman what he's doing. Doerman looks up to him and calmly asks if he can roll over and assures the cop that he won't hurt him. As if he could. He's face down on the ground, cuffed behind his back, with an officer with a gun standing over him, and he still feels like he's in control. Then, as his wife screams in agony that her babies are dying, he calmly tells the officer not to worry about his dog because he doesn't think he'll bite him, as long as he doesn't reach for him or try to pet him. Unreal. He just shot his 3 boys, who are laying dying just feet away from him, and his wife, who he shot through the hand, is screaming that her babies are dying. But he tries to act as if he's concerned about the cop's safety, as if it'll make him appear human. His children are dying, but he warns the officer not to pet his dog, as if they're at his house for a friendly visit. Then he immediately undoes it when the officer asks him again what's going on, and as if he doesn't register that they see what he's done and he doesn't get the big deal, he answers, "Nothing." Then again, with his 3 little sons lying on the ground, riddled with bullets, dying just feet away, he asks if he can get up off the ground because he's uncomfortable. Wow. Folks, you can't make this shit up. What you're about to see is, in my opinion, pure evil on your screens. It's chilling how unaffected he is, how disconnected, and how he carries on with concern only for himself, and how he presents to the police, despite the panic and screaming going on around him. This is the video of his arrest. As you will soon realize, the black boxes are covering the bodies of his 3 young sons in the front.
The female that went to the firehouse is advising them that the male shot the entire family. 29137. You're clear.
Where's he at?
He's shooter still on the porch.
Get him right here. Right here. You got him on the porch.
We've asked, that's the last place we've been told.
You show me your hands now! Stand up and walk towards us! Stand up now! Walk towards us! Stand up with your hands up!
We got a visual in the mail. Not showing his hands, not following commands.
Stand up now!
Not showing hands or following commands. His name is Doerman. Doerman.
I know, but we can't.
If people need first aid and he's not complying, and you know he's a shooter, shoot him.
We gotta find cover first. We ain't no good if we ain't safe ourselves. Hey, no. We need to come from this side where we can see him. Don't take cover behind her. We see him. We're going to approach from this side. We got cover. Right here.
6 covered, 29 and 63 is type out. We're not working right now.
Show us your fucking hands now! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up! Stand up now! Stand up! Stand the fuck up!
EMS to stage and air carrier is going to go ahead and fly whenever any units can advise.
Get your hands out of here.
72.
Cover 21. It's in the air.
Those guys can confirm that there's people that need first aid, and that's the shooter. He's not complying. They need to take care of the
I got it.
victims. If they have to shoot him, then shoot him.
Man, I ain't trying to hurt nobody. I'm completely sober. Never did drugs a day
63,
in my
we're
life.
21. Get the EMS over here.
Well, I did drugs when I was little, but I don't do drugs now. I'm sober. I'm not trying to fight you. Gatlin,
63.
get your butt inside. Gatlin, get your butt inside.
We on primary?
Now.
29, we got 3 kids down.
3 kids down, 16 feet up.
Gatlin.
63, we're 21.
Knock
Have
it off.
EMS respond over here.
You're clear, they're being advised.
Robert 34, just started mass custody response.
63, do you want them to respond to the Laurel Lindale address? Where exactly do you need them?
We're right in the front yard. What are you doing, man?
Hey, are you copying all this?
Can I roll over? I ain't gonna hurt you. I ain't gonna hurt
You
nobody.
got anything on you?
No, I ain't got nothing, man. Phone, that's it. I ain't mad. I ain't nothing. Just make sure that dog don't come out. I don't think he'll bite you. Just don't reach for him and try to grab him and pet him.
All right.
He won't bite you.
What's going on, man?
Nothing. Can I stand up? It's kind of uncomfortable.
I'm gonna
I
get
ain't
you
gonna
here
do
in a
nothing. I ain't running
second.
away. You can do whatever you want with me.
Here. You the only one else inside the house?
What?
You the only one else inside the house? Sit down right here.
My daughter, she ran over to the fire department.
Sit down.
It's my stepdaughter.
Put him in the cage.
This is real.
But that wasn't all we saw of Doerman's bizarre, evil disconnectedness. When he was taken to court for his bond hearing, many news reports claimed he cried as the prosecutor described his horrific acts to the judge in an effort to secure a $20 million bond on him, ensuring that he would not be released back into society while awaiting his trial. the largest bond amount the prosecutor has ever asked for. But that wasn't what I saw. And if you saw the hearing and you think that's what you saw, you might want to look again. Nice and close. Did he fake cry for a moment? Absolutely. At a perfect time that he felt that he should show emotion for the judge to see. But it was the other things that I saw that he didn't plan or fake that were such a giveaway for me. Now, I am in no way a body language expert. I'm amateur at best. But studying the body language of a suspect is one of the most intriguing things for me when I'm researching crime stories. They can say what they want, but it's their body language that gives them away. If you know what to look for, it's very telling, and it hasn't steered me wrong yet. Doerman's was very telling, in my opinion. But again, I'm not an expert, so take it with a grain of salt. I won't bore you with everything I noticed, but I just had to share what I saw. He enters the court blank-faced and disconnected. He doesn't even appear to be there. He's empty and still unaffected. He stands motionless, with a blank stare, as the prosecutor tells the judge that he confessed to lining up his 3 young sons and executing them. And as if that isn't evil enough, the prosecutor explained that not only did Doerman confess to that, but he also told police that one of his young sons tried to escape and run to a field next to their home, but he, quote, drug him back to the property and executed him in front of witnesses, unquote. Necessary details for his confession or bragging? If you look closely, that is the first time we see a slight wince on his face. Hard for him to hear because he felt bad? Not at all. He didn't have a hard time describing that horror to the police that he could have easily left out. No. That wince was embarrassment. Hearing how he was almost outsmarted by his son hurt to hear, because he's better than that in his mind. He had no problem bragging to the police how he was bigger, stronger, and faster than his little son, so he could inflict that terror upon him. But he didn't like the way it made him sound, and almost look weak when he heard it described back to him. He continues to stand motionless as the prosecutor tells the judge that he was the boy's whole world, their guardian, their protector, and that he admitted to executing them in cold blood. He doesn't even care. But then we get a big reaction when the prosecutor attacks his evil actions, calling them monstrous and cowardly. That hurt. We get a big swallow, lots of sudden blinking, a slight lip quiver, and he turns and looks at the prosecutor like he wishes he could kill him too. So, we start to see watery eyes. He's frustrated and he wants to lash out, but there's not a damn thing he can do about it. But still, no tears, as the prosecutor tells the judge that Doerman confessed that he planned his son's executions. Again, necessary details are bragging. Why would he say he planned their murders? Why not just say he snapped? Because it doesn't sound as powerful, does it? He couldn't say he just snapped, because then it would sound like he lost control. Nah, he definitely planned their murders. He was in complete control. Then he gets his big moment, his chance to appear human, remorseful, and heartbroken over what he did. When the prosecutor says Doerman confessed to what he hopes is the worst crime that he'll see in his lifetime. But he almost missed it. You can count the seconds that it takes for Doerman to realize that it's his cue to fake cry. So, 1, 2, 3. Then he does a nice big face scrunch, like he's going to burst into tears. Some heavy breathing, A sniff. Then he returns to his blank look, nods his head ever so slightly, and mouths, "It's okay." Wow. His big chance. And he blew it. He couldn't force any tears. He couldn't pull off his big fake cry. So he just gave up and self-soothes, telling himself it's okay. Then, back to unaffected, until the prosecutor describes the crime scene as so awful that no law enforcement training could have possibly prepared the first responders for what they found. Just as he finishes his statement, Doerman congratulates himself by drawing the attention back to him with a loud sniff meant to make it sound like he's crying. Then again, he stands motionless and emotionless as the prosecutor talks about the toll it took on the officers who held Doerman's dying and dead sons in their arms, knowing there was nothing they could do for them. A statement that should have broken him. But nothing. No emotion, no sniffle, no nothing. Then things take an interesting turn. At the beginning of the hearing, Doerman's attorney requested bond in the amount of $75,000, which Doerman must have found to be reasonable for 3 murders and a shot through his wife's hand, because he didn't look too worried about it until the prosecutor upped the stakes. Now, you're welcome to dismiss every observation I've made up until now, but you can't even try to deny that now I really want to kill you. Look, Doerman turns his head and gives the prosecutor when he hears him ask the judge to grant his bond in the amount of $20 million.
Officer Chad Doerman, 2023 CRA 1975. This matter is before the court today for purposes of bond hearing. Mr. Kelm, you were here on behalf of Mr. Doerman, Mr. DeCalvi, Mr. Gadd.
That a bond of $75,000 with order conditions will be imposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeCalvi.
Judge, at this point, I'm going to let Mr. Gast handle the bond on our behalf. Thank you.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
Judge, we've got law enforcement with us here today. Our office has been involved. Lots of people in our office have been involved with law enforcement throughout yesterday afternoon and evening, all the way through this morning. And the facts I have for you at this point are as follows. The trauma that this man has inflicted on his family, the community, law enforcement, first responders, and all of the rest of us who have any idea what's going on here is unspeakable. There's been a full admission in this case, Judge. The case is still new. We're still discovering facts. Incomprehensible cruelty. The father that stands before you lined up his 3 young boys, and he executed them in his own home with a rifle. They were ages 3, 4, and 7, Judge. In an act of desperation to save her children, the mother at some point grabbed the gun. The father was able to flee into a field near the home. And again, we know from his admission, father hunted that boy down, drug him back to the property, and executed him in front of witnesses. The mother was shot through the hand in her attempt to protect her children. To just begin to imagine their fear. This was the man that every day they woke up looking to for protection, love, guidance in all things. The man they trust more than any other person on earth. The person they rely upon to keep them safe from harm. He was their world. He was their guardian. And he executed them in cold blood. We know that from his admission. One of the most monstrous, craven, cowardly acts that will ever be our misfortune to see. To make things even more disturbing, Judge, this was no haphazard act. Again, by his own admission, he planned the happen on a whim. He's confessed to what I believe is the worst crime, at least I hope, that I'll see in my lifetime. I hope it's the worst fact pattern that ever comes before this court. Judge, it's important for the court to know, and Monroe Township Fire and EMS and other first responders bravely respond to the scene where they don't know what's going on. They did not know what they're facing, and they come into a scene that no one can ever be prepared for. No law enforcement training, no training of any kind prepares you for this. It's easy to forget that these are men and women with families, children, feelings, emotions. They're not some automaton performing a delegated function. They're people. 10-year-old children. They held these boys in their arms, knowing there was nothing they could do to save them. How long do those scars last? What day do you wake up from that? And did he have access to a weapon? Yes, obviously he did. The weight of the evidence against the defendant at this point, Judge, we stand here with a full admission of the defendant. That also goes to the confirmation of the defendant's identity, and witnesses on scene did see at least part of what happened. Next, the court is to consider the likelihood this person would return to court if a bond were issued. Again, this is the most heinous crime with the most severe penalty under the law that we presented to the grand jury. That alone would be a major factor in discouraging a person from availing themselves to this court or any other. And the thought to flee and the likelihood of flight is great in the state's opinion. The danger he poses to the community is a factor that this court can consider, and I think with the facts in front of you, Judge, we can't name a person that poses a greater threat to the community. As his prior record goes, Judge, it is fairly minimal. He was charged with domestic violence in 2010. He is not, to my knowledge, on probation community control. Judge, the facts of this case are hopefully like no other we will ever see. When this case gets indicted in the Court of Common Pleas, I am certain that a no bond hearing will be held, and I would hope that would be granted. But at this point, this juncture, we're going to ask this court to issue a bond we've never asked for before. I'm going to ask for a bond of $20 million. I hope I never need to request such a bond again.
Thank you. Date for preliminary hearing?
The date for the preliminary hearing, Judge, is 6/26.
No objection.
The preliminary hearing will be set for June 26th at 1 p.m. At this point in time, bond's going to be set in the amount of $20 million cash or surety. Anything else at this time, Mr. Gast?
No, Judge.
Mr. Kelm? Mr. Kelm, anything further?
Nothing at this
All
time.
right, thank you.
That was an unmistakable if looks could kill. Why? Because that meant he wasn't going to be able to bond out and be home in time for dinner like he had planned. See what you didn't hear? Because it was edited out of this hearing video, but I saw in another video of the hearing that was Doerman's attorney told the court that his parents could sign for his bond. So he thought he was going to post bond and go home. Probably to finish what he started. But a $20 million bond? That meant he wasn't going anywhere. His control was taken away, and he was to remain in the state's custody. Check, mate. That wasn't supposed to happen. I don't doubt he cried real tears after that. That had to be quite the blow to a man so big and bad that he had to terrorize and kill little children who couldn't defend themselves in order to feel powerful. Except he's not a man. He is a coward. He is a monster. He is a demon. Not even a trace of human left in him. Doerman's father noticed the same and said so during an interview with WCPO 9 News. He said, quote, "He just snapped. I could tell in his eyes he's just hollow inside. That was not Chad standing at the arraignment. I mean, that was not him." Unquote. I believe him. But I don't believe he just snapped. I fully believe he planned it. And all I keep hearing from news reports is that nobody knows why. Well, I think this man who claims to know him gives us a really good idea why.
He was very angry. Every day yelling at his wife, dogging her, downgrading the kids. Just very angry. And if they didn't do what he said, and I've seen it firsthand, but I never thought that he would do that.
If what he says is true, then Lord knows what went on in that house. I don't even want to think about it. This story is hell enough, literally. But even so, there's more to tell. Unfortunately, this horrific tragedy is not a first for the people who live in Claremont County and surrounding communities. If my research is accurate, just over 5 miles away, and just a few months ago, another horrific family annihilation took place on Ribble Ridge Road in Ohio Township, when police say a mother shot and killed her family members just moments before deputies arrived to evict her and her family from their foreclosed-on home on February 27th of 2023. According to police, Teresa Kane was contacted by the sheriff's department prior to their visit to her home, and she told them she needed a few hours to finish packing and they would be ready to move out of their home. But when police arrived to the home for the eviction, they said they saw Kane on the porch waiting for them. Then she went inside the house and they heard gunshots. When police were able to get inside the home, they said they found Kane, her 13-year-old son, and her father, all deceased from gunshot wounds upstairs, and her husband shot and killed on a downstairs couch. Her 20-year-old daughter, Samantha Kane, survived, but was found in critical condition, and she spent a week in a coma. She's currently trying to recover from the horror she experienced that day. Police said that when they investigated the crime scene, they found that contrary to what Teresa Kane told them, nothing in the house had been packed for the family to move out. So the communities surrounding this first tragedy were only months into the healing process when it happened again. As a matter of fact, the two tragedies occurred so close in proximity to each other, the same community church held vigils for the victims and offered support to those who were grieving in both cases. I don't think the tragedies are related in any way, shape, or form. But knowing that the Kane annihilation happened so close to Chad Doerman's home, I'd say there's an excellent chance that he knew about it. And if what Doerman's friend or neighbor said about him being abusive to his family prior to the shooting is true, but he never thought he'd do what he did, the Kane annihilation took place months ago. Doerman told police he had been planning to execute his boys for months. A planted seed? The same demon? Makes you wonder, doesn't it? Please join me in praying for the survivors of these horrific crimes. Pray for their healing. Pray for their protection. And pray that Doerman is never released from the cage he belongs locked up in. He's due back in court for a preliminary hearing on June 26th. May God bless his 3 little sons, as well as the family of Teresa Kane. All innocent victims of loved ones overcome by pure evil. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means more than you know. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you on my next video.